thought it was over, we started it over. Just a different chapter, but still part of the story. Spirit of a patriot, but the heart of a soldier. If you wasn't part of the grind, you can't be part of the glory. We right here, we ain't going nowhere. It's your worst nightmare. We back and they all scared. Every year is our year. The defense is top tier. Whenever you see that red and blue, it's a new era. They too scared of us. I don't know who said it was over, but they lied. The truth never miss. Kicking down the door like who let him in. We been grinding and we ain't worried about the small talk. We big timers.
Yeah, can't believe it. We ain't leaving.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the Patriots Friday Night Lights podcast. I'm here with Dog Nation as usual. How we doing?
Hey, how everybody doing tonight?
All right. So, free agency is the big thing. Combine starting up next week. There's a bunch of stuff that the Patriots need to be looking out for. We were just talking off camera. You're on a little mock draft. If you want to kind of talk about that, just so that people know.
Yeah, so right now we're running with Draft Professor, so we're actually due for a pick to make the picks for the Patriots on behalf of the Draft Professor that's doing the podcast. So the Patriots Friday Night Lights, we're going to be the ones doing the picks. So we're going to try to keep you guys updated while we're doing the show. We're also going to be making these picks. So hopefully, we keep you guys updated. You guys can follow along with us. And please feel free to, engage, comment, tell me what you're thinking of some ideas of some picks or guys that you may like that's under the radar, things of that sort. Because we always want our audience to engage with us. That way we can engage with our audience as well, understand what we're putting out there, as well as the feedback we're getting back.
Where are they at in the draft? They started.
I still don't even. I'm trying to pull it up from my Twitter. This is driving me crazy right now.
Yeah. Okay, so with our first pick, right, we were at number 4. I'm looking at their live. It seems like their Giants just picked Travis Hunter, but this kind of relates to the combine, right? There's some big names that we're going to be looking out for, right? Will Campbell's one, Ted McMillan is another one, Abdul Carter, and the other one is Graham from Michigan. Those seem to kind of be the big ones.
Yeah. Where are you leaning at with this pick? Because if you said the Giants just picked, then that means we're up next.
Yeah, I'm just on the live. I don't have anything on the I don't have a link of anything, but that's what it seems like. It looks like they had Ward at second, Travis at third. I'm assuming Shador was one. Someone I can't tell, but personally, since day one I've been a Will Campbell guy. I still want Will Campbell. I'm really excited to watch him at the combine. I want his arm length to come in at a 33 plus, just so that all that kind of talking with his arm length kind of goes out the window.
Yeah, definitely. If the arm length isn't as short, then it would definitely have me a little bit more enticed for Campbell. Honestly, I would be okay with a Campbell pick, but just you got to trade back then. Not too far where you would lose him, but I would like to see some assets gained right there because, he's not the consensus number 4 pick in the draft, where a lot of people feel like that's pretty much a reach for him because right now the story is basically he's going to be a long-term guard. So
yeah, which I want to avoid that. Right, he's been a tackle. I think he's been the best tackle in football the last few years. I don't want him changing that at all. But my most ideal is definitely us being able to trade back. I know once we get past kind of number 9, that's when he starts to fall. So I don't know who would be able to. It looks like they may have restarted it for us. I don't know if you've gotten on there, but pick right before the Panthers and Bears. That's kind of when he would start to kind of fall. Right, that the 8 to 10 range, I think it is.
Yep.
So I don't know. I'm right. Quarterbacks is what's going to help us, right? The Raiders and the Jets. I know there's been rumors of the Jets talking to the Titans, which would be hilarious. There's the Jets just giving up everything for the first overall pick in this draft would be the funniest thing ever. Like, what a horrible draft to kind of move up. It would be the most Jets thing of all time. I don't really see that happening. That doesn't really seem like a reasonable thing for them to do. The Raiders, they've always been in that conversation. So maybe we get lucky with the Raiders if, like a Jalen Milroe starts to kind of pop off. Right. You've been pretty heavy on Jackson Dart. You've been kind of on him. I know a lot of people tend to kind of be on him. I'm curious at how he does at the combine. I don't know. He seems to be a little bit more athletic, so I'm curious at what he's able to do to jump off.
I think he's probably the most polished, I should say, as far as footwork working from the pocket. He isn't the biggest quarterback, not by far. You know what I mean? He's more of a kind of like Jalen Hurts height. You feel me? Probably better arm. Probably about a good 6'2", 6'1", somewhere around in there, in that range. Like I said, he throws a good ball. He has great footwork in the pocket. I'm sorry, I'm waiting for these guys to hit me back. There was some confusion. Like we'll speak about that more off here. There was some.
Yeah, it's just something fun to kind of have on the side, but
yeah, Dart.
Yeah, curious. Yeah,
Dart's definitely like I feel like he could push to be QB3, but also I wasn't too impressed at the Senior Bowl. I didn't feel like that was his most impressive outing. But thank God there are pro days and combine, so we can kind of see where Jackson Dart goes from there. I don't think it affects us too much, honestly, in that top 5 range, because there's no way possible he's going right there, top 5. Not sure what the Minnesota Vikings are going to do with J.J. McCarthy, because that changed a lot of things for what's going on in that top 5 as well. And right now it seems that Matthew Stafford is the ace card.
Yeah, he'll be the first domino, it sounds like.
Yeah, because if the Giants get their hands on him realistically, and if they are able to retain that number 3 pick, then I'm pretty sure that changes the course of where they might go in the draft right there at number 3. But like I said, it's just another few things over these next couple of weeks because free agency officially starts where the legal
March 12th
or March 12th, 11th, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So we're about to see what happens there. But if I was the Patriots, they had to get somebody in the trenches. Even if you don't take Mason Graham there, like I said, there is good depth at interior defensive line. Could you possibly get back in the first round and get your hands on Walter Nolan? I don't know. Walter Nolan might be going in the first 15 picks, so that could be a stretch. But you also still have some guys that could be disruptive, like Kenneth Grant. If they're looking for a nose tackle, then you go that direction. But I don't feel like we're in a position to pick a guy that's specifically just a nose tackle.
Yeah, I'm more of edge tackle. That's kind of where we need to start off.
Positions.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like we have a top 4 pick, right? We can maybe trade down to a top 10, right? That you got to get those premier guys.
And the reason I'm okay with Graham up that high because he has that type of game-changing, disruptive ability that you can say, okay, yeah, now we can put this guy in. And like I said, with a Baltimore and Keon White on that line plus Mason Graham, I feel like that would give the defense a tremendous boost in the front 7 and would allow the team to focus more on the linebacker position that I feel like we haven't really addressed in the last couple of years. Like Bill tried to address it, but it was always like real late in the draft. And yeah, you get good value with linebackers late, but just seemed like we haven't been having much luck because you took Mapu, who, like I said, in my opinion, maybe he was going to be a replacement for Duggar because he possibly has more upside covering. Because Duggar was going because this was the year before Duggar was supposed to go into the last year's contract. So we're all wondering like, well, then why did he take another strong safety here? But they announced him as a linebacker. I'm just not sure if that fully came to fruition if he's going to be able to play linebacker in the NFL. So now, like I always said, we were sitting with 3 safeties with similar skill sets, which was cool for Bill, but going into next year, we need speed.
Yeah, and if we were to go more defensive line, would just getting Myles Garrett, I feel like that would just be like an easy thing for us to do if just the number 4 pick would work. Right? Myles Garrett he's on the older-ish shot side, but he's still top 3 defender in the entire NFL. I feel like if we were to go with like defensive line, like we might as well just go for Myles Garrett. Right. Like Myles Garrett he's the gold standard. So anyone in the draft, like it's very hard for anyone in the draft to be just as good as Myles Garrett.
Oh yeah, I don't see unless
I feel like if we're gonna go with defensive line, you might as well just try to trade for Myles Garrett and hope that we can get him. I feel like the number 4 pick would be enough, right? Because we have to pay him too. So I feel like that would make the most sense. Or like Abdul Carter, right? I feel like the Browns are just gonna replace Garrett with Abdul Carter. So I feel like it makes sense to just give up the 4th pick and then we get Myles Garrett.
Because a franchise like the Browns, at what point do they start realizing that even if the quarterback is not, if you're not 100% sold on them, if I was the Browns, just based off of their history with quarterbacks, I wouldn't take him. I would get another good player and then try to look forward towards some other players coming into possibly the next year's draft, which is supposed to be more talented, or looking forward into 2027. Because it just seems like Browns Jets, no matter who the quarterback is, he could have even been once great. he puts that uniform on.
Right. Yeah.
It's the strikes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's some sort of curse that they got going on. Like
Disaster will come.
Yeah. I just like what would they do like non-quarterback? Like if they have to replace Myles Garrett, which would suck, you have to waste a pick on just replacing a player. Like I feel like they have so many needs. Like maybe they get a Will Johnson or something, right?
Honestly, they might as well hit the restart button.
Just sell everything off their pick.
Because realistically, now what are you holding on? You got Jerry Jeudy for a very, very good price, and he's looking like he could potentially be a good number 1 there. But you don't have a quarterback, and the best player that you could say, probably arguably even with Jim Brown, the best player in your franchise's history, he's ready to walk out the door. And honestly, at this point, deservingly so, because it's like, as far as the Cleveland Browns go, holding on to Myles Garrett for, let's say, another 5 years, what exactly is that going to get them?
He hasn't done anything yet, right?
Yeah, and it's not about, we know what Myles Garrett brings to the table, but them as an organization, they haven't got to the peak with that type of player that they wanted to. So now that player wants to walk out the door, and now you need to fix the mess that happened with Deshaun Watson.
They had Baker Mayfield. Like, they had Baker Mayfield and they fumbled. Like, yeah, they just need to somehow take a step back and just
they might as well hit the reset button on that franchise once again.
Yeah,
send Myles Garrett out, get some picks for him, and start acquiring your talent and have yourself in position in future drafts to get yourself a quarterback. I feel like that's what the Rams are doing, because all right, the Rams, all right, you want to move on from Matthew Stafford. You just made the divisional round of playoffs last year. You're about to get rid of Cooper Kupp. Why? Because the Rams, up until I think last year, they didn't make a pick in the first round since freaking like 2016.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, now that got them their one Super Bowl win. But now we see that, okay, the team is not terrible, but it's probably not to the standard of a Super Bowl winning team where you would want to be. And you don't want to end up like Pittsburgh year in and year out. Pittsburgh's not bad enough to get their hands on a premier quarterback, but they're not good enough to get over the hump and win playoff games and win championships. You know, which is a sucky's place.
It might be the worst spot, right? It's like never changing.
Yeah,
right? Brutal. So with the Patriots, right, we're talking about defensive lineman, right? Myles Garrett would be a thing. If let's just say we solve our offensive line issues in free agency, receiver, right? Obviously, Ted McMillan is the big one, right? What if we trade back, get to, right around 10 to 15 or whatever? Who would you pick receiver wise if we were able to kind of make a move like that? If we didn't want McMillan.
Okay, and you said McMillan's not on the board?
Yeah, because like if we're at 4, like he's like the obvious choice, right?
Honestly, in that situation, I would look towards maybe a Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State.
I was about to say I like him.
I would also look at 10 to 15 is too rich for Jaden Higgins. I feel it all depends on what his combine looked like. Because if Jaden Higgins comes out and runs, less than a 4.5, he possibly can get pushed up in the first.
I'm a big 3-cone guy when it comes to receivers, to be honest. The 40-yard dash is kind of overrated at this point, right? We saw John Ross, and that was a disaster. Xavier Worthy, he did all right, but I like a big 3-cone. I'm excited to see Egbuka with the 3-cone. I'm very interested to see how he's able to kind of break out.
Honestly, that's who I had my eyes on. Matthew Golden from Texas.
Okay. Yeah,
I would take him. I would take him in a heartbeat. He has the speed. He's not exactly the biggest, but he can run his routes. He can get out there. He can play on the perimeter. If he was there, that's who I would take. But in the later rounds, it's funny because I was actually looking at another wide receiver that I was trying to get a feel for. Jackson Meeks at Syracuse. He's a bigger wide receiver. I feel like he probably could fit into the Patriots mold if you're looking for an outside X that can make some contested catches and a short-handed guy. But the Patriots' main problem is if you're going to get that receiver, he needs to have some speed. Because realistically, I think that's what they try to bring in Polk to do. You know what I'm saying? I think that's what they were trying to bring in Polk to do, and it didn't work out. Hopefully, under McDaniels, we can see a better Jalen Polk. Because I was actually watching, Steve Smith.
I was about to say Steve Smith. Yeah.
They come in, and before I watched his recent video on him, and it did leave me with okay. Like I said, I will give him the benefit of the doubt, considering that the coaching situation last year was very egregious. It's just sad that 12 catches at 87 yards. Like, man, if you can't overcome an egregious coaching situation that bad to overcome that, then or maybe AVP wasn't scheming up a lot of plays for him, because listening to AVP talk, it's like his rookie guys. He didn't really want much out of them. He wanted, this is going to be your learning curve. This is your learning year, it seemed like. So maybe some of it wasn't always Polk's fault. And just to say that some of the drops, well, he's not getting much burn. So sad to say that when the opportunity was swinging his way, he wasn't prepared to step up to the plate. So I said I could chalk it up to some of that. So I'm hoping and praying that both receivers we took last year were not busts.
Yeah,
needing more receivers this year. It's crazy, man. Like Drake was a wash.
Yeah, Drake May was on the Green Lights podcast with Chris Long,
Uh-huh.
and Chris Long was asking like, who does he expect to have like a big jump in year two, or who he's looking forward to kind of helping him progress, or whatever. And he talked about Baker and Polk.
Right.
He sounds like he still has a lot of faith in them and is excited to play with them.
Those are these
So,
guys.
right, yeah. If Drake still is like, yeah, like I want these guys here, right? I feel like we have to make them a priority in some capacity.
Yeah, because realistically, you have Booty, like I said, who's looking like he's making a climb, which is what you can ask for. He's progressing. That's a 7th-round pick. You're developing him. Pop Douglas was also a 7th-round pick. You're developing him. So the other two, I would hope that you could develop him too. And if you do need that alpha to come in, then let it be a guy that comes in and let all these other players settle into their role. Let's just say he doesn't have to particularly be a superstar. If everybody can do their job well, because that's what it, all right, it's not apple to oranges with Tom, but a lot of guys that we were bringing in, whether it's these, these shorter white receivers that nobody really thought can, but then Tom's showing you how to utilize the Chris Hogans, the Julian Edelmans, the Danny Amendolas, even the Brandon LaFell made plays during the playoff. Certain guys that came in that were kind of cast-offs on their teams, but they fit in good because they were a part of a team goal. Like I said, none of this stuff really became a problem until after we lost Tom, where they were talking about, where the Patriots don't have enough talent on the roster. They don't. Like I said, when did we really have a lot of big names? The drafts have always been, it was what it was, but we were still winning championships. That's the difference. The championships were still coming in. So who was really focused on if we had a 1,000-yard receiver or not? We were showing you we could do it without 1,000-yard receivers. But then now, like I said, now that the game has transformed to being more wide open and people want to see these explosive weapons and things like that, that's what it's transitioned to. But outside of Patrick and now Jalen Hurts, congratulations. They just won the Super Bowl clearly. It ain't too many, like all these explosive weapons that they say that teams need to have and things like that, especially freaking weird ass Colin Cowherd. He parades for every offense. He wants every defensive minded head coach fired, and this is offensive league. You gotta have this guy, and this guy is smart, and this is the way to train. Yeah, Colin, shut up. But not too many of them has reached that ultimate goal of winning the championship. Yeah, the stats look good, but those stats are for those players to come to the table like, well, listen, though we didn't win a lot of playoff games these last couple of years, I caught 550 balls and, X amount of yards. I need to get paid.
Yeah.
That's where it's at now. It just kind of sucks, though, like, with the salary cap growing, I feel like teams now have more money to retain their star.
Yeah, Higgins, that screws us.
Yeah. So now that forces us, which could be a good thing. And it could be a gift and a curse. The gift is this. You finally forced the scouting staff and the draft to really you put an emphasis on, listen, we have to be a draft and develop team. And being just, if you want to go like in geographics, Boston, things like that. It gets cold there, and I heard there's a certain tax bracket that you go into when you're making millions. So that right there could work against you too. So all those things considered, we have to be more of a homegrown team where we're building our talent from within. And if we can get our hands on like some really high-end free agents, great. But now it seems like the front office and the scouting staff, we have to do a good job. All these lackluster drafts and things like this missing on these players, this can't happen anymore. Or the franchise is going to continue to be out in the spiraling out control like the Jets and the Browns and things like that, because those are the things that I feel like will hold a franchise back. Just like look at the Detroit Lions, how bad they were for a long time. You're not gonna tell me it's all players and coaches over 30 years. Miss me. You feel me? Miss me with it.
Right. Yeah.
Somebody has to get this right, and I feel like there has been a sense of urgency this year, so I'm gonna give it a benefit of the doubt. And I feel like we have a monster for a quarterback, great leader, good young kid. Just don't overwhelm him with too much of, yeah, I feel like he's definitely going to do his part with helping this franchise get to where it needs to be, but also hold these other guys accountable for helping him to get there. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, everybody has to be held accountable from the coaching staff all the way down to the front office, all the way down to ownership. If we want to get back up to a respectable name and keep our franchise from looking like how the Jacksonville Jaguars look with Trevor Lawrence, or how a lot of these other teams look when they have promise with a young quarterback, and then,
Chargers.
yeah, and can't get over the hump.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all drafting, right? That's right. I mean, look at the Eagles. I mean, they've had incredible drafts the last like 5 years.
Great.
The Lions just started having great drafts. That's why they're top tier, right? Right. Those are the big teams that they've just created, right? And the draft is more sustainable, right? Because everyone's on a rookie contract, so you have at least 5 years with most of the players. So that gives you like this huge timeline of being able to build around these guys. They fill up holes much easier, right? They're cheaper, right? And then when you want to retain them, it's a lot easier than bringing in these big names, right? They play for you a couple of years and you have to re-sign them again to another big contract, right? The drafting is massive. Especially with having Drake May there, right? He's going to bring in some free agent talents, but you need people around him to develop with him. We need sustainability for multiple years and not just try to do like what we did when the year we got Mac, right? We brought in Hunter Henry, Kendrick Bourne, Aguilar, right? It worked for 1 year and then half of them are gone, right?
Yep.
It's the draft. You want to be able to create a culture, and the draft lets you do that. But with the draft, right, we're talking moving down with the receiver, right? Offensive line, right? Obviously, there's Will Campbell. I think that's personally, I think the offensive line is where we should go first round, right? I think free agency, they're just too expensive, and I think there's a little bit more receivers that are out there that's easier to kind of get at. But offensive line, right? Will Campbell is obviously up there. Kevin Banks is another one. If we were to move down out of the top 10, I kind of like Josh Connerly. I know he had that really bad video against Green, but right, he's a decent one. Emory Jones, right, opposite of Will Campbell, not a bad
He's
one.
a right tackle though.
Yeah, but I mean, it's right. Both of our tackles are massive needs.
Right.
So,
considering they just re-signed Jacobs. Like, seriously, considering.
I got responses of people being like, "Oh, it's not guaranteed that he's gonna make the roster. Or he's a good body to have in there." Bunch of bull. No, he's not.
No, he's not at all.
I can find a guy walking down my street that's gonna do a better job than him. Right? There's
Seriously.
no reason for us to retain him.
Yeah, like his feet are like stuck in mud. Like there were times like that's why I love when they used to show him on the camera. It's like his assignment would already be out of their pass rushing set. And this guy would barely have 2 feet into the ground, prepared to even get his hands up to put it to the guy's shoulder pad to even stop. Like that right there, that can't be. So I do wonder, what the hell are you going to do with Caden Wallace? And was that a wash of a pick?
Right,
look at that. Like he's a right tackle, or because he has the size, he has all that stuff. He has the experience. His athleticism is probably what's lacking. But okay, do you move a Wenu back into right guard, and then would you feel comfortable kicking Caden Wallace out there? And if so, you have David Andrews coming back. And Cole Strange looks pretty damn good at center, but can you move him back to his left guard spot? And if you feel like Will Johnson really is the guy, and the arm length doesn't matter to you that much, and you feel like that's the guy that you want to go for, then the offensive line should be better going into next year just by the addition of Will Campbell. So that's why I said I'm not out on him. You know, I think he's a good player. It's just based off of where the team is sitting at right now and based off of value. The value would say, yeah, we'll trade back because you possibly can get him because we don't know what the Jets do behind us at 5 because that's a wild card pick as well.
Yep.
We can't say for sure where the Jets are going with that. But we know the New York Jets, they like flashy toys. So regardless of what, they're going to get a good player.
Yeah, and then the Bears. I think the Bears are going to do. I think they're in a similar position with us, right? They'll pick, similar players that we're going to pick, right? That's another one who's they're only a few spots behind us. But yeah, the Jacobs thing, it doesn't make sense, right? I don't care that he was a starter. He was the worst starter in the league, right? I don't really understand keeping him. Literally every free agent that's out there is better than him. That was just a wild thing for us to do, which I know it's not guaranteed, but it's like we know what he is. Like even if he was in as a third string, like for some reason all of our guys got hurt and he had to step in, like I'm bullshit because like he's gonna suck.
Yeah,
right. Like it's I don't really get it, but I mean if we're able to get a bunch of free agents in and just push them out, then so be it. But I just think it's kind of a waste of a spot at the moment, to be honest.
That's what I'm saying. Last year's draft, it's like so much. Oh shit! I wanted to see if I could. I was wanting to see if I can connect it because I actually got some slides about like a lot of players. But last year's draft, they act as if I'm not gonna say they, but some of the conversation this year, we put so much stock on this year's draft because we act like last year's draft did not exist because Drake May, we're all excited. Yeah, but second, third, and fourth round, no, a conversation needs to be had. Like it's seriously because we're still sitting here talking about players that you took in the second, third, and fourth round are still players that we need today. There's still players that we only felt like we only came out of last year's draft with our quarterback. And that's great. And we've seen how great he can be considering what he had to work with. But now we're looking, we want more. We want more on the line. We want more explosive defensive players. Though our defense has been top 10 over the last couple of years, but you let Bill go, it collapses. So now we're starting to realize we don't have great defensive line depth. Jaquelin Roy, if you feel like, okay, with Goshaw going out, Jaquelin Roy, what can you coach him up to be going into next year? Can you bypass taking a defensive tackle early in the draft if you feel like you're going to trust that process? Okay, cool. Because it's not like even, with Mason Graham, it's not like there's this surefire Jalen Carter in this draft. You know what I mean? We don't see many Jalen Carter. But though Walter Nolan and Mason Graham are very, very good players. If you put me under a truth test, long term, I might say Walter Nolan because his numbers are a little bit more productive as far as sack wise goes. But Mason Graham he blows things up.
Right. That's he just kind of disrupts everything, and then
he blows
on and Christian Barmore out there.
But if you feel like you can bypass that, and you want two guys maybe in a good third round pick at DT, and maybe take you another guy at fourth, so you can have some depth there. I'm not exactly opposed to that. You know what I mean? I'm not opposed to that because you're getting depth. We need depth all throughout the defensive line and on the offensive side of the ball. I don't even know which side to put more emphasis on. But yeah, obviously we got Drake on offense, so you want to keep him upright. But there's some conversations that the true left tackles are maybe later on in the draft. That kid from Ohio State, let's see how healthy he is. Josh Simmons.
Yeah, Josh Simmons. Yep.
He would be a great pick at left left tackle, just depending on how healthy he is. So even if the Patriots, if we see that he's that healthy, and they're like, well, listen, we're going to trade this fourth pick and maybe trade back a lot, and they still can get their hands on a guy like that, I wouldn't entirely be mad about it. You know
Right?
what
Yeah, just right either side of the ball. Like you can make a legit argument for both.
I'm saying?
Right?
Yeah, because you
If
need
we
to
have so much.
acquire more picks. At this point, it's more picks because it doesn't look like we're going to get our hands on a high end tackle in free agency, and we're not going to get our hands on maybe a high end wide receiver like how we were talking about the list. There's a lot of good names on there, but these guys is in their post 30s.
Yeah, the Diggs, Hopkins. Yeah, that one. Yeah, that was. Yeah, right, just Cooper Kupp is one that's kind of out there. I'm still holding on to hope for T. Higgins. It's not looking good though. But right, yeah, free agency with receiver, it's tough because it's all older veterans that are clearly not in their prime anymore. Offensive tackles, there's just not a lot. Right, there's just the guy from the Ravens. He seems to kind of be really the only one. Which then it's
He's pretty good too when he's healthy.
right, and like I don't want to put that much emphasis on an offensive tackle who needs a new contract, who's older, has health history, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just too big of a position to do that. I'd rather use free agency to try to fill in like other minor holes, like a linebacker or like a corner or something like that. Just right, there's always plenty of those, and right, that's not a high end pick that we need to use on those kind of positions, but. Yeah, free agency is tough because there's not a lot out there.
Philly's the blueprint. I will say
Right.
that Philadelphia Eagles, because they took a guy that came from playing rugby. He's all pro now. If I'm not mistaken, was it Monalaga?
The tackle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of them was a rugby player that turned all pro. They got some good guys on the line, whether it's Landon Dickinson. They took Mekhi Becton from the Jets.
Yeah, who looked terrible. Yeah, and now he's
freaking. And that worked out so well for them because he's such a big, massive guy. Yeah, maybe he can't move out on the edge, but right there in the middle of that line, they have the luxury to do that because they drafted so well. See, it starts to work easier when you were looking at it as, oh, well, we did get this guy in this draft. He fits well in that position. So now you can make some of those little luxury picks where you can take a swing on the guy and switch his position and it possibly still works out because he has 2, 3, 4, maybe other great guys around him that works good in their spot. That's where I feel like we need to be. We're not going to get it all back at once. We're just not. We're not going to get it all back at once. But the good thing about it is you have 2 third-round picks this year. You have a second-round pick and obviously a first. So within everybody saying that range, I think 15 to 75 is the range that you want to be in because you can get a lot of, good depth and really good players there that can come in and help your team. The Patriots, y'all have about 4 players in the top 75? 4 picks in the top 75. So if you can acquire more picks going into that, hey, trade that fourth round pick to see if you can get back up into the third and get yourself 3 third-round picks. You know what I mean? 1 in the first, 1 in the second, 3 in the third. That's good depth right there.
Yeah. I'm all about trying to get top 3 rounds, as many as we can. I would like another second, right? And then if we really want to, move it up to another first. But I think I'd rather just stay put in the second, to be honest. Right? There's so many depth, positions that are out there in this draft.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What if the Patriots? What if they don't make a move at wide receiver at all? Do you feel like it would be justified for them not to make not a single move at wide receiver?
If we went trench heavy, yes. I'd be pissed, but I think the trenches are the most important, right? Especially with Vrabel being in there. I would understand it. I wouldn't be happy, But if we had like, you know, 2 offensive linemen and then 2 defensive linemen in the draft, and then, you know, maybe like a defensive end linebacker kind of situation, right? Just like, you know, spend 5 picks on just the trenches. Like, I'm okay with that to a certain extent. Right, kind of like last year where we basically picked every single offensive position possible, one defensive. Like, if we just went something like that, and obviously it depends on free agency, but yeah, receiver wise, if we just went trench heavy, like that's not the worst thing ever.
Yeah, because like it may sound crazy, but I'm a very optimistic person. Like,
Yeah,
all
but
right,
if it's the other way though, I'd be so mad if we just went like tons of receivers.
yeah,
You know,
no,
receiver, tight end, running back, like skill players like that.
like, they had to make a move there. Now that's one that I feel like is a underlying thing that hasn't really been addressed. Tight end, tight end. Because
Yeah,
Hunter Henry's still very good, but after Hunter Henry, what depth do we have? All right, we did take Jaheim Bell in the late rounds, but
I like Hoop. Hoop did nice. He did nice.
I'm talking about long term though. You know, these guys are guys that could be out of the league within the next 2 to 3, 4 years.
Yeah, I feel that's a next year draft.
Yeah, it's depth. It's a lot of depth there this year.
Yeah,
Definitely
yeah. I mean,
a
like
lot of depth.
you know, 5th or 6th round, like sure, but
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of depth where they can get some guys that tight ends with speed too as well that could add another element to the game.
yeah.
But I'm optimistic on the receivers just off the simple fact that, like I said, I just go back to the double dip in the Polk and Baker. So if you bypass the receiver, I would have to sit with the notion, and honestly, I live with it until I see it. That okay, if you want to give the young guys a chance, and you want to continue to try to work with Booty, Douglas, develop Polk, because I feel like I don't know how good he can be, but I would give him the benefit of the doubt. He's not as bad as 12 count.
Yeah, especially with next year's draft, right? Isn't Jameson Williams or the Williams kid from Bama, right? He's
Ryan Williams.
Ryan Williams, and then
well, he's only a sophomore. He's only a freshman, right, bro? The kid's 17. He was 17 this year.
So him and then the Ohio State kid. So they're in 2 years.
Yeah, 2027.
Yeah,
possibly. That's why I'm saying like next year's quarterback draft may have Arch, or maybe Arch goes back for another year. So that 2027 draft, I feel like that's where a lot of teams have their eyes on. If you ask me, I think that's where the Rams got their eyes at. That's probably why they're trying to get certain players out the door early, suffer a bad record, get back up to the top of the draft, get their guy. So, like I said, it's definitely going to require some finesse out of the New England Patriots right now to get their front office up to speed with what's going on. Because
this is supposed to be the first year with the new scouting.
That's BS. I think they used it last year. That's BS.
Because, they said it wasn't fully like developed or something. It's like, well, then why did you use it?
Yeah, exactly. You guys put it out there. Like that's the first thing Elliot Wolf said was the first thing he changed when he got in there was Bill's grading system.
Yeah.
He said it was based off a couple other different factors. And that's what got me a little shaky about what's really transpiring with those draft picks that we keep talking about, the Bakers, the Wallace, the Polk, because it's like, I'm trying to read the tea leaves. Like, you guys aren't making this exactly easy for me, putting certain statements like that out there. Because, like I said, it's like, us as fans, do we have to accept the writing on the wall is all we got last year was Drake May. And as great as he is, damn it, I'm selfish and I wanted more. I'm not even going to lie.
Well, we needed more. Right?
We needed more. Right, exactly. So
if it wasn't for Booty, like our receiving thing would have been a even more disaster. I think Booty was the only like true, light at the end of the tunnel kind of thing, right? He really helped out.
He played hard. He looked like he wanted to change the narrative.
Yeah, no, I'm so happy for Booty that he was just awesome. He did
he was definitely
far exceeded expectations and just worked his ass off. But another, like you're saying, tight end is a position that you're kind of sneaky on. I'm a little sneaky on running back.
Yep.
Right. There's been
Definitely.
talk of Mondre with being a good trade package.
I'm okay with that. I like Ramondre, but I'm okay if they trade him because I don't feel like it would make us it would hurt us.
And his fumbling is losing us games consistent.
Yeah.
And like there's stats coming out where it's like it's looking really bad. Like the only people that have like more fumbles on the same amount of attempts or whatever, it's like quarterbacks, and they just get smoked from behind way more than running backs. So it's like it's the stats are pretty bad, but the fumbling is like I understand that if we traded him.
I told you he lost us that game. Cincinnati.
Yep.
That second year, we could have been in the playoffs 2 years in a row.
Yep.
That game down at the 3, he fumbled that ball. And honestly, that's been a problem since college. It's not that Ramondre is not a good player. And like I said, I really like the player. But if they traded him, I wouldn't be hurt because I don't feel like it will impact the team that much because you can go in the draft and get a faster running back. And
it's deep too.
Huh?
The running back class is deep. There's plenty of options.
Because the Patriots got to be explosive. Even when I'm playing with them on freaking Madden, it's like, all right, who's gonna be this guy that like I can explosively get down the field, everything? Like, there's not a lot of guys that are just like simply like fast in that offense.
Right.
Drake May's speed, I think, is higher than the receiver.
Yeah. Running backs, who do you like? I mean, obviously,
I like Scatterboo.
I like Scatterboo too.
I like Scatterboo.
Oh my god, that's a dog.
I like Scatterboo. I like the kid from Iowa, Caleb Johnson. I really like him. I also like Dylan Sampson from Tennessee.
Yep.
I really like him. Who else? Marion
Scatterboo is a Mike Vrabel guy.
Oh,
he's the guy who's gonna he's gonna make his nose bleed and like get cuts on his face like every freaking game, and he's just gonna not complain. I love Scatterboo. I like his mentality so much. He's just like, oh, you want me to play quarterback? Sure. Want me to play tight end? Sure. Want me to do this? Sure. I don't care. Just give me the ball. Right? I love it. He just seems
I got a question. Yeah. If we got our hands on Jack Besh, going to maybe 3rd round, but they bring him in as a tight end, are you okay with that? But an H-back type of tight end. Hunter Henry plays in line. We have Jack Besh. He's doing more motions. You know what I mean? We can line them up, probably bigger slot, get them matched up against linebackers, safeties, things.
It depends if we got like Tet at 4, I'd be more okay with it. I just think receiver is just too big of a field. Like if we drafted a receiver and then didn't have him as a receiver, I feel like that just doesn't make sense for the Patriots unless we got Ted at 4. Yeah.
And honestly, I'm Tech at 4.
Right, because if we just did that, might as well just get Taysom Hill, right? He's kind of a guy.
I don't know. Jack Besh, what he showed me at the Senior Bowl, I loved it. Like that, like he played a freaking amazing game.
I'm excited to see him at the Combine. I'm excited.
Yeah, he played an amazing game, and especially with the whole storyline around his brother and everything.
Yep.
In a situation like that, it gave me chills because it's like, RIP to his brother and condolences to his family. But in a situation, that's what you would want to see from a player, where it's like all the lights is on him. Here's the storyline, here's the narrative. And he went out there and he put his heart on the line. Yeah, we don't got to sit here and talk about, well, his speed's this, his speed's that. What we saw him display was just a complete, flat-out great football player. Who went out there and looked like he was not taking this as a joke. That's why I look for those guys when I see him on the Senior Bowl. Who's hungry? Who's hungry? Because obviously there's some guys that come in with a sense of entitlement, but then you see those dogs that's hungry. That's what I want to see. Who's hungry to get on the field? Who's going to fight to stay on the field? Who's going to try to fight to make a play in the exhibition game? Because you're out there to showcase your talent. And I feel like that's what he showed.
Yeah. No, I like him a lot. I thought what he did was pretty awesome.
What about okay, so Edge.
Yeah.
Obviously the Abdul Carter thing, you know what I mean, we might have to throw a little bit of water on it for now.
Mm-hmm.
Who would you be comfortable with?
At 4 or just like in general?
In general, like we missed
I
on
feel
the
like
edge
at 4 if it's not
round.
Abdul.
Yeah, we missed on the edge in the first round. Like we can go edge probably in the second or third.
Yeah, I like Mikael Williams, Georgia.
Yeah, but I feel like he's going.
Jack Sawyer, Ohio State.
He might be there for us.
Yeah, Landon Jackson from Arkansas. Right, I think he's all right. Obviously Mike Green, but I mean, I honestly, besides the Senior Bowl, I really don't know much about him.
He's
I would say
undersized.
just because, right, that Ohio State team just it was just a really good team. Or Georgia, but
what about JT Tuimoloau?
Yes, yep. Mm-hmm.
I like him. I feel like he could be a good early first selection. I definitely like Nick Scorton from Texas A&M, but he's probably a top 15, top 10 guy. The other guy from Texas A&M too, Shamar Stewart. He doesn't have good sack number records, but he's 6'6", 285. If he runs in the 4.5s, 4.6s, you can write it off. Even a 4.7, you can write it off. He's going in the first round, just based off of what they think that his athleticism would be. Mel Kiper made a good point about him. That should be up to the D-line coach, because being that he don't have those sack numbers, if you're going to take that guy in the first round, you probably should look at all of his tape and ask the D-line coach, what, by the time that this is close to a finished product or it is a finished product, what do you think you could turn it into? But see, for us, as good as those type of players are, we can't afford to reach.
No.
We can't afford to reach. Like, it just got to be. And you got good defensive linemen. The moment when we see Keon White in his third year and hopefully a healthy Baltimore, you got good defensive linemen there. You just probably need the depth. So maybe we could be overstating how much we need another DT or something like that. Maybe it's just depth we probably need. And hopefully these guys are healthy and we get another dog on the edge. But like I said, it's only but so many picks to go around.
Right. Yeah. I kind of like safeties later in the draft, right?
Yeah.
With like Jabril Peppers and all that. I
like the guy
Xavier Watts from Notre Dame. I don't know where he's going to end up, but he's kind of like a versatile safety, which Patriots seem to always love. Or like that.
Second round, second, third.
Okay, I wouldn't be wanting to do that. Not that high.
I like that kid from Texas, the free safety. Is it Mokuba? Andrew?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
He's very fast. He can cover. His tackling skills aren't the best, but I think that'd be a good fourth round option.
Yeah. Linebackers, Jahad Campbell from Bama.
Yep.
Might be someone that we might be able to get. People are talking about Jalen Walker with our fourth overall.
He's good. That's rich.
Yeah. So maybe if we were able to pick up like an extra, like I don't know if he's going to fall into the second round, but I mean, if he fell into the second round, like I would be okay with picking him up.
Walker?
Yeah, but I feel like he's going to be.
I doubt it. Just off the simple fact of because he can play on the edge and inside.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
he does both of them very, very, very good. I've seen him mock to the Jets a lot. And honestly, they're in a position where they have the type of defense where they can take a player like that. See, we aren't. You know what I'm saying? See, it's easier to identify when you got a Sauce Gardner and a freaking Quentin Williams and his brother. His brother's been playing lights out inside, and the other guy that got hurt, Jermaine Johnson. You know what I mean? They got some players on that defense where a guy like him, that's going to instantly boost their defense to a level where you can see him in the conversation of Defensive Rookie of the Year because he has so many good players around him. And now when we're talking about the Patriots, they aren't exactly in a position where they can take that luxury pick with something like that flashy
Right.
toy on the defense.
Yeah.
Linebackers, I like as a later pick, Jay Higgins from
Okay.
Iowa State. He's a great pass coverage linebacker. He seems like he's more cerebral. Isn't exactly the fastest or most athletic, but very, very, very productive linebacker. I also like Barrett Carter from Clemson. Undersized, has some
Yeah.
speed on him. I don't know where Harold Perkins falls in at all this. The LSU kid that got hurt. He was supposed to be the consensus number one linebacker in the draft. Very
Okay.
fast,
But
explosive.
Carson, Schwessinger, UCLA,
Oh yeah. Great
pretty
player.
good.
Great
Like
player.
him.
Yeah,
Uh,
linebacker. I feel like they'll have their pick of the litter there because I would feel like Vrabel and Terrell Williams will want to come in and have their guy. That they can coach up to know this
yeah.
defense.
I feel like we'll have our pickings right there. They're usually later days
Yeah, it
kind of
will.
picks anyway. So besides Jalen Walker, like they should pretty much all be available for us. I
Yeah.
feel like. So
Campbell might
I'm
go
not
late
rush.
first.
Yeah, I don't have a rush on trying to get them. So I
Yeah,
don't
me
think it's gonna
neither.
be.
I feel like they could be all right with that. They just can't. The positions they can't miss on is tackle,
Yep.
and edge, and receiver. Like I
Which
said,
sucks because those are like, besides quarterback, those are like the biggest needs in all of
yep,
football.
and they need them. I feel like everything else, if you want to get depth pieces and focus on them later on in another draft, I'm okay with that. But do not miss on anything on that offensive line. You can't miss on any
No, yeah,
offensive line.
absolutely not. Yeah.
Wide receiver, you can't miss on that. And hold on, my son's calling me. Wide receiver, you can't miss on that. O line, you can't miss on that. And obviously, like I said, edge because you need it.
Yeah. And then, yeah, it stinks. Those are the big ones. But honestly, if we got Scatabo, I think the draft is a win already.
Oh yeah,
I like him a lot. I really like him a lot.
I'm listening to you. Sorry, I'm texting my
Yeah,
son.
no, I'm just looking at the names. Like, I mean, the receiver seems to be kind of there's a bunch of options. Jalen Knoll, I like Restrepo. Isaiah Bond is a good one. Honestly, yeah, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll, both the kids from Iowa.
Yeah,
Both of those guys would be like a nice pick.
yeah. I like Isaiah Bond because of the speed.
Yeah,
I want to
from
see what he
Texas.
runs
Yep.
in the 40. Like if Josh McDaniels feels like he can coach that kid up to maybe what Xavier Worthy is, or even like a Tyreek Hill type, the Patriots need that because that's an element of the offense that we don't even have.
Yeah,
Speed.
especially with Drake, like
Yeah,
the
with
deep
his
shots that
arm.
he was taking. I mean, having someone that can open up that, because Drake takes those shots all the time, like with Booty, right? When it happens, it's fucking crazy, but it's not consistent enough because Booty's the only one running those routes, so it's pretty easy to kind of cover it.
Yep.
I want to stay the hell away from Tez Johnson. 160 pounds, no thank you.
Because we already got Pop.
That's gonna be the media. The media's gonna eat him up. I guarantee you, he's gonna be the number one receiver you're gonna see, like posted about by the media is Tez Johnson because of that Senior Bowl, the one-on-ones that he was doing. He's gonna be everywhere, and too small. I don't want to take a risk like that. Too small.
Yeah, if we didn't already have Pop, then
or Taekwon. Like Taekwon makes me more nervous, right? Same school, both skinny as hell.
Taekwon went to Baylor.
Taekwon had no routes. That was the only thing you can say.
Yeah, Taekwon came from Baylor though. It seems like
was he Baylor?
Yeah. Denzel
Okay.
Mims, Kendall Wright, anything that comes from Baylor. I'm gonna be honest, usually Big 12. I'm gonna just say usually Big 12 wide receivers outside of CeeDee Lamb, and I might be missing the other few names, but honestly, you usually don't really see a lot of crazy productive receivers come from that conference just because of the play style. Everything's so spread out, and even with guys,
Yeah,
freaking Jalen Pope in college. If you really go back and look at their offense, or even ask anybody or watch videos of anybody that's breaking Washington's offense down, none of their routes have like a concept maturation to it. Like this route's supposed to take away this. These guys are just running the areas on the field, trying to like that air raid stuff, and
right.
that's why it's hard to kind of decipher some of these players coming into the league, because now they've been playing like this since high school, college. They got scholarships off of doing all this, but now we need them to play in a more structured game. How are you going to be in sync with your quarterback when your quarterback's not in the shotgun and he's under center now? And he has to take a 3-step drop back or a 5-step drop back, 7-step drop back, and your route has to be in sync with his drop back step. You feel what I'm saying? That's where a lot of those guys from the Big 12, like I said, I can't remember much receivers from Big 12 besides CeeDee Lamb that's came into the league in the first round or anything like that has been highly productive. I haven't seen it from Hollywood Brown. I haven't seen it from obviously Quentin Johnston's looking more and more like a bust over there in LA. He came from TCU. Who's the other guy that came from obviously Travis Hunter in Colorado just went into the Big 12 this year, so we can
but I don't really count them like in that same
I would exclude
style.
that. I'm talking about guys from TCU, Baylor, Oklahoma. Well, Melvin Mims actually looks good coming out of Oklahoma, so I'll give him that one. He actually looks like a really productive receiver.
Yeah,
but like I said, more often than not,
name because there's not a lot that are right. Yeah,
the Patriots probably want guys, honestly, guys that's probably coming out of the Big Ten, because just the weather element, that they should be able to deal with that being in Boston. Obviously,
block. Right.
Yeah, got to be able to block. It's more old school football there, where, like I said, the Big 12, they want to spread it out. They just want to throw all over the line.
Yeah, that's gonna be cool with Jack Beck. Right, you kind of talk about if we put him in a package where he just runs someone over, lines up kind of as a tight end type of thing. Like I wouldn't be
about Savion Williams from TCU.
I don't know much about him.
Yeah, they're saying like I think he's about 6'4", 6'5", kind of like a Swiss Army knife type of player. But honestly, he reminds me too much of like Johnston, because he does have good production. I'm not going to take that from him. He does have good production when you look at his rushing numbers, while also receiving too. He does a lot of reverse screens, things like that. But see, like I said, gadget players like that, those are luxury picks. We aren't good enough to take a luxury pick like that.
Yeah, I'd rather just sign Taysom Hill if we're just going to go gadget. I'd be kind of excited to see Taysom Hill with Josh McDaniels. I posted about it earlier, and people were kind of like not really feeling a gadget player, but something cheap. I feel like Josh McDaniels could use him in millions of different schemes. I think that'd be kind of nice instead of using a pick.
That's what I said. Like, I would be okay with it too, but where is the overall roster at? That's
the thing. That's got to be like post-draft, post-free agency, where we're just like trying to fill up, the last like 10 roster spots, or that's 5 roster spots, and he's still out there.
You would want a guy like that, like, because we need somebody that threatens defenses. And honestly, if we really feel like Tech is that at 4, I'm not even gonna fight with them on it. If that's what you feel like he is, it better be a home run.
The other thing, Ted is like a boom or bust. Like, he better come out there like Malik Neighbors, like, like he's got to be clearly an elite talent.
Yeah, that 40 time.
If he's not the best, right, he could possibly be the best receiver in the division, right? If Tyreek Hill's not going to be around, there's not really a lot.
Keon Coleman, and that's why I'm a little fearful. Because
he's got to be better than Keon Coleman. He's got to be. Right?
And that's why I'm fearful, because Keon Coleman coming out, you would have thought that, man, You know what I mean? We've seen the athleticism, the catches, and everything. Keon Coleman, but we see him in the league. He can barely beat the press. Like he let
Right.
corners get inside his chest, and mind you, he's a bigger guy. And then he put up that freaking 4.6 he ran in the 40, but he had the fastest, I think, 3-cone drill, and he actually had the fastest play speed out of all wide receivers that was there. So it kind of shows you, like, hopefully the Patriots aren't a team that puts so much emphasis and stock in the guy's 40-yard dash, because all right, a 40-yard dash, it definitely should mean something with corners and wide receivers and things like that, but I don't give a shit what a defensive end's running on 40-yard dash so much.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Defensive tackle and things like that, because in how many scenarios throughout the season am I going to need this guy to be running freaking full speed 40 yards down the field? And honestly, if my defensive end has to run full speed 40 yards down the field,
yeah,
that'd be something fucked up to happen.
Right. It's either, awesome, like a pick six, or it's a huge bomb touchdown, which is most likely.
Yeah, like if somebody's running on us and he can chase it down from the back, but obviously, who wants to plan out a scenario like that?
Yeah.
Like freak that shit, stuff it up front. So yeah, like that's why oh man, it's so many ways that they can go. It's just that they're gonna have to bypass maybe a superstar player of another caliber to get one superstar player and probably get that the player that they might have looking for. Like, let's say you take Tech at number 4. All right, well, now you're going to have to take a step down on edge. Then you're going to have to go into the draft and try to focus on getting you another edge guy in the second round again. Or let's say you take the edge guy up that high, and now you're going to have to try to focus on getting maybe a lesser tier wide receiver once again. So, like I said, with T. Higgins possibly being off the board right now and teams having significantly more money than they thought they would, it sucks for us because, like I said, teams are now keeping certain players that should never touch the market. That's what it seemed like it's about to be. Those teams that shouldn't be touching the market, they're never going to touch the market. And honestly, like you said, I don't want us to be sitting out here chasing behind other people's picks and things like that. Oh, well, now we want your receiver. When it's clearly, honestly, we could have had T. Higgins in the draft. We could have had Deebo Samuels in the draft. We could have had A.J. Brown in the draft. These is all guys that were sitting in available spots when we drafted. T. Higgins was the first pick in the second round of the 2020 draft. Bill, you traded the 23rd pick that we had. If I'm not mistaken, you traded to the Chargers, and then we ended up taking Kyle Duggar and Josh Uche in the second round. But these are all players that we could have had. So it's like now we need to get our wide receiver, and for all intents and purposes, I hope to God he comes out of the draft. I hope to God that maybe he's already on the roster. That way, it'll be a great conversation to have years from now. Oh, this guy needs to get paid. Okay, well, he's already on the Patriots roster. You guys got all this money going forward. Pay the guy, keep it pushing, because like I said, the quarterback, he's here.
Yeah, we got to change the narrative with the receivers, because that's the number one issue with the Patriots and the draft is just the receiving, right? You see a graphic every single day of just like how awful it's been with the Patriots drafting receivers. Like that's,
I mean, it's a hot take, but I'm about to fuck you up with this one.
Okay.
So Pittsburgh, send us George Pickens plus your first and possibly a second or a third. We allow you to get up to the 4th pick in the draft. But
where's their first?
Huh?
Where's their first?
Their first, I think. Hold on, I gotta pull it up. I got a draft chart. I can just look it up, honestly.
Probably like 15, 16.
Where is the Pittsburgh Steelers picking in the 2025 draft in the first round?
George Pickens.
Okay. I found this on the web for where is the Pittsburgh Steelers picking
personality-wise,
in the first round.
is a little scary because I feel like if we're gonna go with a veteran, I would like a veteran that has leadership qualities, just to kind of set the tone in this locker room. But
Vrabel's there though.
Hmm?
I feel like with Vrabel and McDaniels, and clearly George Pickens would be with a quarterback that he hasn't even seen. Because remember when Stephon Diggs was with Case Keenum and every other bad quarterback that he got with Josh Allen, and it just elevated. So if we could get Pickens plus maybe Pittsburgh's the first and second round pick.
I would be. Where were they? Where were they? Where did they say?
21. That's the only thing. But I think it could work considering that you would now have 2 picks in the second round. You got a George Pickens basically in the first round, and at 21, you could still possibly get yourself a really good tackle there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't be the worst.
It certainly wouldn't be the worst.
That's tough because
Pickens and Drake.
yeah.
Stop. You know that would be a hell of a
It would
combination.
be nice. It would be nice.
That'd
Yeah.
be a hell of a combination.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not a bad one to think about. It's realistic because just with how things have gone with Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Yeah, because it seemed
if
like
I were to trade for like a receiver and kind of do that kind of a swap, I would like DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf with the Seahawks first, like same thing, but with DK Metcalf.
Yeah, no, see,
Maybe
with
not a
DK
second.
Metcalf,
I don't think give us a second, but
yeah, with DK Metcalf, you're not getting my fourth. You're not getting the fourth overall pick. I'm sorry. Like, and I
you'd rather
like
give
him,
it to
but
Pickens than
huh?
Metcalf. You rather give it up for
Because
Pickens?
Pickens is younger, slightly a little bit younger, and DK, it's like I like DK, but I feel like Pickens with
Ooh,
all his attitude problems going forward, I feel like Pickens would be a more high end pick.
what about Chris Olave? He's been kind of in the talks. I would
I
love
would
Chris
pick him, but
Olave.
I'm not giving up the 4th pick for him.
Not
Because
if
he
we
gets
got
injured
him
too
in
much.
their first. Saints first is they have a pretty high up pick.
Yeah, I think it's 7, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
I mean 7th we could still get like a Will Campbell,
Oh hell yeah! Oh,
right?
if it's like that, then hell yeah, yeah, of course. And
Like I
that's it.
give up our first, and then if we have to, like a third, maybe even a second for Chris Olave, and then the 7th. We got Chris Olave and Will Campbell. That's 2 huge needs, and we only give up like a second round pick.
What's the chances you think we make a trade with the Jets?
That's 0. I don't really see it. But
I would fleece him.
Saints wise, I'm still kind of caught up. Would they want to go to 4th?
Who, the Saints?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they? Because you've brought in Kellen Moore for what exactly? You guys they don't have a set quarterback plan. And honestly, the Saints are actually, I think they said they're in the worst cap situation out of everybody. It might be like $45-50 million over the cap, something crazy. So yeah, when you look at it from that standpoint, that actually is a great take because
I would love Chris Olave. And then still being a top 10 pick, right? You can still get that tackle, still get,
honestly,
maybe
I'm not
good
opposed to that
Graham,
at all. That actually would be great. You'll probably go down to be one of the best GMs in New England history. You could pull that off. You probably go down to be one of the greatest. You can pull that off. Yeah, honestly, now you got me thinking about that one. Like, yeah, I would not be opposed to that. Plus still being able to stay at 7, and then get the tackle in a comfortable spot, like Will Johnson right there in a comfortable spot. I mean, not Will Campbell right there in a comfortable spot at 7. Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd definitely be cool. That's why maybe the Patriots could benefit from looking at some of those teams that are just a little bit below them that maybe want to get up there to get if it's all going to depend on if anybody passes up on Cam Ward within those first 3 picks.
That
Because
would be
he's
mad.
the consensus number 1 pick. I mean, he's the consensus number 1 QB right now, just based off of mobility, improvisation, and things like that. Shador's more of the cerebral pocket quarterback that they feel like is instinctive. So,
Yeah. What would be the scenario that would have him falling like that, right? Obviously, you have Duel and Travis Hunter, and then just Shador. So
yeah,
that's
you can find
realistic.
better players than him. Like, honestly, the scenario of him falling would be that. Do I think that he's the end all be all? No. You feel me? Honestly, if I probably was in the position where I needed to take a quarterback or something and I was a coach and I feel like I had time on my side, I wouldn't attach it to him because of his play style in college. I feel like going into the league, there's definitely going to need to be some work there as far as teaching him to work on the center and how to stay in the pocket. I'm sorry. How do you look in the quick game? Can you get the ball out of your hands quickly? Because we've seen this with Caleb. You know, we've seen this with Caleb. He's made plays like that. We've seen this with countless quarterbacks. How many of them can really throw in anticipation versus, yeah, I'm going to sit back here and pat this ball and boom, then throw it, or throw all these deep crossers and things like that. Then, not to mention, he's coming up out of the ACC, which the level of competition there isn't exactly the highest. And, you know, I'm not trying to take nothing away from Cam Ward. And if I'm not mistaken, he was at 3 different schools, right? Or did he just go to Washington State and Miami? I know he was at Washington State for sure. I'm just not sure if he was somewhere else before he got to Washington State too. So, you know, they go in and break all that stuff down. Obviously, they're privy to a lot more information than we are, especially when they're vetting through their draft process. But if I can see him fall, if Tennessee feels like they can run it back with Levis, and maybe they take Travis Hunter, and Cleveland's like, all right, well, we want Abdul Carter, or vice versa. If those 2 guys just go in the first 2 picks, the Giants, now what do? Do they really like Shador as much? Do they like Cam Ward as much? Or are the Giants going to try to get their hands on Matthew Stafford? You know what I'm saying?
I feel like that'd be a bad pick for the Giants, but it's the Giants. No, it wouldn't surprise me too much.
I mean, with neighbors there, probably not. But the Giants definitely have. They've been missing in the draft as well because Deontay Banks has not been a good corner. Kayvon Thibodeau's been okay, but you know you got Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence there, so you probably would have expected more from Thibodeau rather than 7.5 sacks last year. But I don't know. I kind of like the Rams blueprint though. Like I was telling you, in those 2 drafts, like look at their young defensive line. You got Kobe Turner, Braden Frisk, Jared Verse, and Byron Young. Oh, those guys.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah,
that's why they're in the playoffs, right? Those guys are.
Yeah, they got a good young core. So, like I said, the Patriots, we have to find what our draft and develop plan is, and ride it out. Like whatever, you know, it doesn't have to be exactly what somebody else did, as long as it works for us. Feel me?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, whoever's identifying the talent, whether it's who's the guy that Vrabel brought in, Elliott Wolf. I'm tired of hearing about Elliott Wolf because I'm not gonna lie, like
him and Matt Groh, I just
yeah, because bro, if this year's draft does not produce marginal fruits, they gotta go. Because we sit there and complain about Bill all we want. This is about to be year 2 removed from Bill. I don't want to hear about it no more.
Yeah, and now they've put all their eggs in the basket with the grading system. right? They
Yep.
said it's fully implemented now,
Yep.
right? If it doesn't work, then it's like they all have to go. They gotta go. Like that grading system, it's a disaster. It's a joke. Those guys suck. And then
Go get yourself a real freaking GM.
Yeah.
Somebody that, but then again, who really is a great GM? Because I feel like a lot of these GMs they get recycled through so many teams, and it's like you look at some of the other teams that they were on, and it's like, dude, you butchered that team. Like, how the hell did you get another job? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like the Giants, they retain their GM, bro. You butchered like. Do you
Yeah,
not
it's
see
usually like
what's
the
happened?
assistant GMs that come from like like the Eagles or the Chiefs, right? I think the Chiefs assistant GM just became a GM somewhere. I don't remember where, but it's usually like those teams, like the Rams. The Rams always have someone from their front office.
Yeah, they I think the Rams guy just went to Jacksonville, if I'm not mistaken. I could be
Yes.
wrong.
Yep.
I think I seen something like that. I think one of the Rams guys actually took a job in Jacksonville.
But yeah. But all right. Next week, right? Our episode would be the day after the first day of the combine. So it'll be interesting to kind of see. I think it's defensive linemen and linebackers the first day. So there'll be something to kind of talk about a little bit, get a little bit more in depth with the combine. Did you get anything from that draft? Were you able to get in at all?
What? Oh, talk about those guys? Yeah,
no.
that was and I'm about to read to you exactly. And we're gonna put this on the air. Whoever the draft professor is, like I
Yep.
said, this was bad business. I told him it was bad business because the first time I was supposed to make a pick, he gave it to some other guys from a whole nother podcast. He said he had 4 accounts messaging him about the Patriots. He couldn't tell which account who's who. Mind you, he reached out to me and basically he said he asked multiple times but never received anything. But we were all in the group chat together, and never heard anything from these guys. So, at the end of the day, they're trained on stop all motion. You know what we get into.
Right. Yeah.
Like we do our own thing, and eventually, hopefully, we can do our own thing with the draft and all of that. But honestly, whether it's me, you, Josh, like we all do a great job on our own. You know what I
Right.
mean? So
Yeah. Yep.
it is what it is at this point.
Yeah. Fair enough. But all right. Well, it was nice talking to you. Next week we'll have a special guest. I'm excited for it.
All right, sure, buddy.
Go from there.
All right, have a go.
Yeah, you too.
We're on to Cincinnati. It's nothing about the past, nothing about the future. Right now, we're preparing for Cincinnati.
Okay, do you feel like the talent you have here is good enough?
We're getting ready for Cincinnati.
What is your responsibility?
I'm just asking, do you think you've done enough to help Tom Brady?
We're getting ready for Cincinnati. Stupid thing.